Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the In Demand Hairstylist podcast. I am so excited that you're here today. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my story and being a little bit vulnerable with you guys and peeling back the curtain a bit, sharing with you about a topic that I believe a lot of hairstylists and salon owners experience throughout their career, and that is burnout. So I definitely have my own story with burnout, and I'm going to share it with you in the hopes that if you're experiencing anything that maybe I talk about today that I have gone through, that you recognize it in yourself and you nip it in the bud now. Because here's the thing, what we get to do behind the chair is so much fun. And because we're passionate and we love serving people and we find fulfillment in what we do, sometimes we can give so much and we forget how important it is to have boundaries and to have and to really just like take care of ourselves, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and make decisions that are empowering, that are going to allow us to have longevity in our careers and to have us operating from a place of power instead of powerlessness. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about burnout. So if you're in that place where you feel overwhelmed, burnt out, you feel like you're losing passion, you just feel tired and exhausted all the time, this episode is absolutely for you. So before I get started, I think I need to just quickly, for those of you who have never tuned into this podcast before and you may not know me, I'll just give you a quick backstory. So I've been in the industry since 2003, so 20 years in the industry. For the first few years of my career, I worked at private salons until transitioning into a corporate salon. Worked at that corporate salon for a few years before deciding to open my own salon when I was 23 years old. I owned my own commission-based salon for 14 years, and I scaled that salon to 13 employees, and I was a full-time working behind the chair as a stylist, and I sold that salon to one of my long-term employees in 2021. And so it's been just about 2 years since I sold my salon, and the salon is absolutely doing amazing and thriving. And that is something that I'm incredibly proud of. I share that in different episodes and how exactly, I was able to do all of those things, but all of it did not come without a price. And that price for me was extreme burnout. So there's burnout and then there is extreme burnout. And that's where I don't want you guys to get to. And that's why I'm really recording this podcast episode, to just really share with you like what I experienced, what I went through, what got me to that place. I think that's the biggest thing, because if any of the things I talk about today you resonate with, totally fine. I have a feeling that a lot of you may resonate with either one part or many of the parts that I talk about today. But my hope is just that you recognize it, and I'm going to give you some solutions to what I would have done differently and what you can start doing today to feel more empowered in your career as you move forward, and actually you driving the bus of your career, the bus of your schedule, the bus of whatever it is, like you being in control of it so that you never feel disempowered, so that you don't ever get to that place of extreme burnout, because that is when we make very disempowered decisions. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So as a salon owner, I do feel like, and even as just a stylist, I'm speaking to both, that sometimes I think I would have done things differently had I not let myself get so burnt out. So don't get me wrong, like I absolutely am obsessed with my life right now. I sold my salon, walked away with some great income, and using that money to invest in real estate. I have flexibility and freedom galore, which I haven't had for 20 years. I've been working on a schedule, a very tight time schedule, being on everybody else's time schedule for so long. So to just have flexibility and freedom in my life, be able to hop in my car on a Tuesday afternoon and go to Target or go to my son's, I'm part of the PTO, like I'm hashtag living mom life to the fullest right now. And I absolutely love where I'm at. However, I do think that had I made different choices along the way, I wouldn't have been operating from a place of burnout. I wouldn't have been making decisions from a place of complete and total burnout. And I just want to share with you guys some of the things that I did that, again, resulted in this place of extreme burnout in hopes that you don't ever get to that point. And so some of the things that I started feeling in this place of burnout was just feeling complete and total lack of motivation. So I had a hard time even like getting motivated and having a vision for what I wanted for the future, because it just like was not within me. I was so burnt out. So I was losing like lack of motivation behind the chair, a loss of passion for what I was doing, which was very unusual for me. Like I'm an incredibly motivated, passionate person, but those things started to dwindle. I started having feeling of resentment towards clients and towards my team. And I see some of this passive aggressiveness happen on social media when people are like biting back at their clients through their social media, whether that be for canceling appointments or coming in late or just kind of poking fun at things that happen in the salon. To me, that is just passive aggressive, and it's a response to maybe even a piece of burnout or just frustration around the things that are happening in the salon. And we'll get into that. So for me, it became harder and harder. And maybe this resonates for you. It became harder and harder for me to like walk through the doors of my salon and be happy doing what I once absolutely loved. And that was heartbreaking, like it was hard for me to even walk into the doors of my salon some days. And I just never thought I would get to that point. And while like at that time, I just thought that my desires and my interests were changing. So I remember this time where I was like, there has to be more for me. Like I've been doing hair for so long. Like I'm just feeling this gut nudge that there's more. And I've recorded podcast episodes about following your gut nudge, and you can go back and find those. I'll try and link them in the show notes. And there are definitely times I do know that my interests and my desires were changing. Like at one season, my desire was just to be like a kick-ass hairstylist behind the chair, make as much money, have as many opportunities as I could. Then it shifted into really wanting to grow this salon team, and you'll find that your desires and interests throughout your career will definitely change. So that was happening for me for sure. My desires and interests were shifting, but I can look back now after being removed from my salon and the chaos of running a salon for a couple of years and really letting my nervous system settle, that many of the emotions that I was feeling were a result of burnout. So much of it, and I'm going to talk about this, much of that burnout was self-inflicted. Much of it was self-inflicted, and some of it was just being the aftershock and aftershocks of running a salon through the pandemic. And if you're listening to this and you are a salon owner, especially a salon owner with a team that has walked through running and operating your salon through the pandemic, hats off to you. There is nothing that I have experienced. I'm not going to say nothing. There are a few really challenging and difficult things that I've walked through in my life. One of them is running a salon through the pandemic with a team. One of, no doubt, the hardest things I've ever done in my life. One of the most challenging things, one of the most stressful things. I do believe that was like the cherry on top that just completely, gave me a lot of clarity on the direction that I should take next, which I absolutely, like, it was the cherry on top that I was already in the process and conversation of selling my salon at the end of 2019. So it's not like I sold my salon because of the pandemic. In fact, the pandemic pushed everything back longer than I had anticipated. But I will say that the pandemic, I was just like, I know that I'm not the person to be leading this salon forward. I'm going to get us through this hot mess, but I'm so glad that I am choosing to walk in a different direction in my life at this point. So again, my story is my story. You may resonate, it may not. Parts of it you may resonate. So take what you want from it. I'm just sharing what the feelings that I had sort of gone through. So maybe you find yourself in this place today. Like you read these words and or you listen to these words that I'm saying to you right now, and it sort of like pierces your stomach, like your gut. You're like, that's me. Like I have a hard time walking into my salon. I sit in my car for like 10 minutes before I go into my salon just to like pump myself up to go, so maybe that's you right now. And the reason you can do it is because you have the ability to slap a smile on your face and nobody knows what's going on. Like that was me. I was like dying inside, but I was so good at hiding it. I was so good at slapping a smile on my face, being so nice to my clients and so nice to my team. And inside, I was like literally disintegrating, it felt like, yet I was slapping on a smile for everybody around me. And I was just trying to hold it together. And I don't know if you can resonate with that at all, or if you've gotten to that point, or maybe you're not at that point, but you could see how you could get there if you keep doing what you're doing. um and that's what I did. So you, as a salon owner, and even as a hairstylist, if you're not a salon owner, you feel this great responsibility to keep things going, right? You feel this like responsibility to keep things going, and you don't really have a plan B. I didn't have like a plan B. So it was really confusing for me when I started having these feelings that I was completely burnt out. I'm like, what the hell else am I going to be doing? Like, I don't have a college degree. I don't have like anything else to fall back on. I don't really have a plan B. So you just keep going. Like I totally, totally get it. And so my hope is that what I'm about to share with you will help you make empowered decisions before burnout gets the best of you. So chances are that you did not get to a place of burnout on purpose. I know that I didn't. I did not get to the place of complete burnout on purpose. It's not like I was like, I'm going to hustle and grind. And I know that like, yeah, I might burn out now, but it'll pay off later. It wasn't that at all. More than likely you got to this place because you are a total badass. Like you are a total badass. Like you're probably that person who you do work incredibly hard. You're not afraid of grit. You're not afraid of hustle. You step up to the plate all the time. If there's a problem, you're the one who steps in. If there's a client that's upset, you jump in and resolve it. If somebody calls off, you jump in and take the client. So you step up to the plate all the time. You're totally accommodating. You like give amazing customer service because you're so accommodating to your clients. You're incredibly flexible. If shit hits the fan, you know how to pivot, you know how to jump in and take care of things. You're that person who's incredibly flexible. You see the world as a glass half full instead of a glass half empty. You're positive, you are encouraging, you're visionary. Like you're a person who has like ideas, and you're creative and you're visionary and you go after what you want. Your clients absolutely love you, and the people around you too. So you bring something to the table that people are just attracted to. So do you resonate with that? Like maybe that's like you kind of know it, but you're afraid to admit it because you're humble, right? Like you're a humble person. Like you know these things about you, but you like you keep it like humble, right? But all of these things are your superpower. Like it's why you are so incredibly successful. It's why people love coming to see you. But your superpower can also be your kryptonite. It can also be your poison. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want to share with you some things that I would have done differently. Because here's the thing, like everything that I just described to you, I said that these are the things that are your superpower. It's the reason you're so successful. But flip the coin, and it's actually also the reason that you're probably experiencing burnout. It's probably the reason your motivation is starting to dwindle. It's probably the reason that your light that shines so bright is starting to dim. If you feel any of those things, just know that it can be different. You can turn this thing around. And I'm going to share with you guys some things that I would have done differently in my career as a hairstylist and as a salon owner that would have allowed me to stay in a better emotional space as I was operating my business. Okay. So the very first thing I want to share with you, I think there's, let me see, I wrote down seven things. So I might have to break this up into 2 episodes, but the first thing that I would have done differently is I would have worked my ideal schedule sooner. And so I don't know if any of you have been doing hair for as long as I have. If you haven't, totally fine. It just was different. Like the industry has shifted a lot in the past decade for sure. So in my 20s, like I worked my butt off in the salon. No one could have slowed me down. Like in my 20s, like I would have worked every day. I mean, it would have been nice to have a day off, but I would have worked every day. I loved what I do. Was like passion was oozing out of me. And if someone asked me if I wanted to just work 3 days a week, I would have been like, what? Like, why? Why only work 3 days a week? Like, no, I love being in a salon. I want to be there. I want to make money. I want to build clients. I want to have fun. I loved literally working. I was all about the making money. I was all about doing what I absolutely loved. Days in the salon never ever felt like work. And I had all the energy in the world. I also had no kids. So, some of you maybe in the place where you're in your 20s and you had kids. In my early 20s, I had no kids. I had no major responsibilities. Work was my life. Like my career was my life in my early 20s, even through my mid 20s. Once I had my son, I was 25, 26 when I had my son. My career was still very much like my whole life. I absolutely was so passionate about what I was doing. But what I wish that someone would have told me or taught me was how to preserve my passion and my energy. And that's something that now I think is more readily available, and people are talking about it, and people are talking about ideal schedule, and people are talking about, having balance. When I first started, that was not a thing. It was like hustle and grind for 12 hours a day, like 5 or 6 days a week in the salon. And that's just how you work. That's just how everyone worked back then. If you've been in the industry longer than 10 years, like you can maybe resonate with that a little bit. But I wish that I would have had anybody, like a mentor, a podcast, somebody that would have taught me how to preserve that passion and energy. When I opened my salon, I kept the same level of hustle. And I know that there's definitely salon owners listening to this that maybe you worked at a salon. You might have had a great experience, worked for a great boss, worked for a great leader, decided to step out and do it on your own. And as a hairstylist, you might have been working 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, and you decided to step out and do it for yourself. And you kept that same level of hustle behind the chair that you did when you were just the hairstylist behind the chair. And that's what I did. So I kept that same level of hustle behind the chair, but now I had the added responsibility of maintaining a salon. I was so on fire for being my own boss and creating my dream business that it never fazed me to pace myself. So I don't know if that's going to hit anybody. Like it never fazed me to pace myself, because when you're in your 20s and you're doing this thing, even in your early 30s, whatever, like you are so on fire for what you're doing. You're so passionate about what you're doing that like you pour everything into it and you do it at all costs, right? You do it at all costs. You say yes to everything. Like at the beginning, that's necessary. Like you have to say yes to a lot of things whenever you're building your business. And the thing is, I kept that level of intensity, both working behind the chair and building my business. And it never occurred to me to pace myself. There was never this idea of work-life balance. There was never this idea of just balance in general. So I didn't pace myself. I also, and maybe some of you can relate to this, I also felt the weight of having to produce money now constantly. So like when I worked for somebody else, it was like if I had a slow day, yes, that would affect my paycheck, but I didn't have all the responsibilities of having to pay rent, having insurance to pay, having the additive like utilities and back bar. So I felt this responsibility of just like having to constantly work to be able to pay rent and build up that income in the business account. So I literally love being behind the chair. So I was like, and I was having so much fun while I was doing it. A few years in, I had started hiring employees and then I had my son. So I opened my salon when I was 23. And I think by the time I was like 25, 26, I had my son, I had hired a couple employees at that point. And it became more stressful during that time with hiccups of learning to be a salon owner. So like I had a walkout during that time, during my maternity leave. I had 2 employees who left and opened a salon like a mile down the road. I was like learning to be a mom, still owning this business, having tons of clients to accommodate and take care of. Like, that walkout, what ended up having had me dive into, running my salon, like taking a very short maternity leave. I think I maybe took like maybe 4 weeks. It might've been 3 or 4 weeks, which like, if I could do that all over again, I would absolutely have taken longer with my son and my maternity leave and just being with him when he was like a small baby. So that's something I would have done differently. That's like a side note. But I was really operating in that season. I look back at like my young self and I know that I was operating out of this place of just pure survival. And maybe that's where you're at right now. Maybe you're a young mama, like you're running a salon, you're trying to grow this business. Maybe you've had a walkout. Maybe you've had, a bunch of clients leave and you're operating from this place of just survival in your business. And, what I had taught myself subconsciously, like during this season, when I jumped in, when I had a walkout and accommodated all the clients and, did all of this, tried being a new mom and running a business, I subconsciously was teaching myself, Kristen, you can do it all. Like you're a superhero. You are so strong. You can do it all. And I had created this habit of working 5 or 6 days a week, anywhere from 8 to literally 13 hours a day. And as my role in both my life, I had become a new mom and I was a salon owner and now a boss. Even though everything around me had changed, my schedule didn't. My schedule didn't change. And that's something that I would have absolutely stopped myself like dead in my tracks and been like, you are changing your schedule to like accommodate where you're at in your life right now. And we're going to make this sustainable for you, Kristen. And so I don't know if anybody's listening to this and needs that permission that like, I'm not saying that you're not strong and powerful and capable of doing a lot more than you think, but you can't do it all. Like you can't do it all. And I think that there's empowering messages of like, you can do it all and have it all. But that's so much pressure for us as I'm going to go ahead and say women, like I'm speaking to women, but this absolutely happens for men too. But you can't do it all. And you might be able to for a short period of time. And that's what I did. I did do everything for a while. I kept my schedule that I had for years. And that's the sad thing is that it really did. It went on for years like that. Me operating out of this place of pure survival, hustle, like I never felt like I could put my guard down after I had a walkout, like during my maternity leave. That really was like a pivotal moment that scarred me. And I was operating from this place of survival and fear and protection for a very long time. And so what I would say is that your schedule, like right at that moment, I should have said, look, there are a lot of things that I have to do as a salon owner here. And I have my responsibilities as a hairstylist, but I also have my responsibilities as a mother and a boss. So what do I need to do with my schedule in order to accommodate this? What is sustainable for me? So maybe at that time, if I was working 5 days behind the chair, I could have cut down to 3 and spent, one full day working on my business and one day off being at home with my baby. Like, I would have just done things so differently. And I absolutely would have adjusted my schedule. I think I had so much help with my son, which was a blessing and a curse. Like my parents, I lived so close to my parents. My fiance's parents, like we were close to our family. So they were able to help us out, and they loved him and took such good care of him. So I was like, oh, he's taken care of. I don't have to put him in a daycare. I don't have to put him here. So I just jumped right back into work. Hindsight, I really wish that I would have spent more time with him, adjusted my schedule, like took time to be a mom, because you can't ever get that time back. And that's something I would have done differently, is really started working towards my ideal schedule way sooner. I didn't start doing that until, honestly, probably year 10 that I was in business. And it was a huge mistake. I would have started adjusting my schedule and setting goals accordingly financially to be able to do what I needed to do financially in a shorter amount of time. So that's one thing. Number 2 is I really wish that I didn't squeeze clients in. That is one thing that absolutely contributed to my burnout. And it also was unprofessional. So I would squeeze clients in all the time, even though I knew I was going to end up working over. I knew it was going to run into the next client's appointment. I did that for 2 reasons. One, money. I was like, oh, I see dollar signs here, And the second thing was I was afraid to say no. I was afraid to say no to clients. I was afraid I would look at my schedule and see that I didn't have anything open for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And I didn't want to tell the client that. I didn't want to say, hey, I don't have anything for a month. Now, I would absolutely say that. Like, I'd be like, I don't have anything for a month. Sorry. I might start working on the back side of things. I would start looking at my schedule and my pricing and saying, hey, what do I have to do to be able to open up more space for high paying clients? I didn't know all of that then. I didn't know all of this. So I did what I knew how to do best, which was say yes to money and say yes to clients. And what that did is cause me so much stress, because again, here I am, I'm just getting into doing my client's haircut and my next client walking through the door. I know she's going to have to sit and wait for 40 minutes. So bad customer service. And so the client experience was like compromised because I was compromising on my schedule. So that, and not only that, but more importantly, I'm going to go ahead and say it's more importantly, is that the stress that gave me continually, because I would do this all the time. This is how I operated, like overbooked for years. And that amount of stress actually took a toll on my body. Like my adrenal glands were shot. There was a season where I had to go and see like a holistic nutritionist and all these things, because I wasn't taking care of myself. And that will absolutely lead to burnout. So all of these little things that I did, like think of them as almost like a Jenga game. Like, I don't know if you've ever played Jenga, but here I am, this strong foundation, but I was making decisions and choices and slowly taking out like a whole, slowly taking out these pieces that made me very unstable. And this was one of the things that contributed to it, was squeezing in clients, saying yes to clients all the time. They'd be like, oh, I have a wedding this weekend. Like, are you sure you can't squeeze me in? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll get you in. So like, that was not healthy. Like that was not having healthy boundaries. That's absolutely something that I would change. So if that's something you're doing and you feel yourself getting burnt out, stressed on a daily basis, like, and finding yourself at the end of your day, like, woo, I'm not quite sure how I made it through that day, but I did, and that's the thing with people that are so driven and motivated, like you figure it out, like you find a way to like finagle your day so that it works. And like my clients would be so pissed like that they had to wait 40 minutes, but I was so good at making them feel great and like having great conversations, giving an amazing experience, making them look and feel good. I was talented at my craft. So when they left, they're like happy. So I had this ability, like, and I almost wore that like a badge of honor. Like I can make anybody happy. And because I'm so good at what I do, and I'm so good at like relationships, and I wore it like this badge of honor, like I can, any mistake or any muff up that I make, like I can make people feel good. I can make them like be happy when they leave. And so I put that responsibility on myself. And it was incredibly stressful. So everything about squeezing clients in is just not healthy. It's not good for the client experience. It's not good for the client's time. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your professionalism. Like it's just not good. So that's something I would just say, like have that boundary, put that in place now that you're going to stick to your schedule. Yes, work efficiently, like so that you can fit in and make the best use of your time, but don't squeeze clients in between where well and good that you cannot fit a client in. The third thing is I would have planned days off for the entire year. This is something I didn't do. I didn't do this because I felt guilty. I felt bad. I'm like, oh my God, like how selfish of me to take time off throughout the year. Like I gave myself like 1 week vacation and I looked for that 1 week vacation for like the whole year. I missed out on bridal showers, baby showers, birthday celebrations. One of the worst things, like the worst feelings, I don't know if any of you do this, but like I would have to go to a wedding, but I would be doing hair for the wedding too. And then I would like still take a couple of clients because the wedding wasn't until 4 p.m. And then I would like rush home and like try and make myself look decent and then rush to the wedding. And then like I was always in this place of like rushing all the time. I don't feel like I let myself like really enjoy moments. Like now, if I was doing hair, I would absolutely take a half day. Or if I was doing hair that morning, I would be done. Like I would be done. Or even further, now I'm at the point in my life where I'd be like, I'm sorry, you know what? I really just want to enjoy your special day. I'm going to recommend some really amazing hairstylists for you because I just want to be present on your day. Like I would have never said that in my 20s. Like I would have been like, oh my God, I'm not turning away money. Like, but what I know now is just that like your piece, like the money will always be there. You can always make money, especially if you're a hairstylist behind the chair, like it's breezy and I could teach you how to make money. Right. But you can't, you can't get back like those moments, like just like my son, like you can't get back those moments and you can't get back peace, the peace that you feel like I was always in this state of hecticness and panic and chaos. And it just was so hard on my body, and again, years of doing that in the moment, I didn't know that. I didn't see it. I couldn't see it from a 10,000 foot view. I just saw myself like getting through moments. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I gotta get done. And I would get to the wedding and I would have a great time and it was fine and life would go on. But what that did to my nervous system, the compilation of all of those moments, what it did to my nervous system was like terrible. So planning out days off for the entire year, I think is something that's so incredibly important. And before I saw that as selfish, but now I absolutely just see it as if I know that I'm taking care of myself first, I'm going to be able to show up so much more powerfully for everybody else in my life. And I can only do that if I know that I'm well taken care of. Now, I'm not saying that I need to take a week vacation every single month, but what I would do is absolutely now in this season, again, time, space, vacation, freedom, whatever, it looks different for everybody. But for me, if I could rewind, I would absolutely block off like 2 weeks out of the year. So like maybe one in the summer, maybe one in the fall or spring or whatever. And then I would mark off like a couple of days, like just random weekends or days every quarter. So maybe 2 days a quarter, I would just like block off throughout the year. And if I decided to work on those days, great. But if not, I know that I have time scheduled, that I could take a long weekend trip if I wanted to, that I could just stay home and relax if I wanted to, that I could take my son camping if I want to. I have this day that I can look forward to, that I can plan something fun for myself, to either for my family, friends, for myself to rejuvenate, or just to literally just like do nothing. And that's something that I would absolutely recommend, is I would do that for the entire year. So if you haven't done it, take time right now. And for the second half of the year, like from May is when I'm recording, April, May is when I'm recording this, to the end of the year, I would absolutely plan out those days. And I would plan out your vacations. And then next year, do it in December. Like December, sit down after the holiday rush, when you're on Christmas break, like stop and block out your days. The sooner the better, because we know that, in November, December, like your January is already booking out. So, trying sitting down, maybe like Thanksgiving break, maybe sometime in December, just setting about a half hour aside and be like, plan it out. Now, may it change? Sure. You might be like, I don't know what I'm doing a year from now. It doesn't matter. Just block off the time. That at least gives you some flexibility to move things around in the event that you want to switch it to a different week or something like that. So plan out days for the entire year, 100% what I would have done. I didn't do that. And so what I had to do instead was move and finagle a bunch of clients. If I ever wanted to take a weekend trip, if I ever wanted to go to a wedding, then I had to like work an extra day to fit people in. And honestly, that's just bullshit. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, that is what caused so much of my resentment, is I had to it was a huge deal if I ever wanted to do anything or take a trip. And I would just set myself up for success differently by already blocking some time off for myself. And that's something that you're entitled to. That's something that I should have been entitled to. And I didn't take it. This is what I'm saying. It's self-inflicted. We do this to ourselves. No one told me I had to work every single day of my life, but I did. It was self-inflicted. And so that's what I'm saying, is that some of these things that you can do to take action now so that you don't hit that point of burnout and resentment. Number 4, I would increase my pricing more regularly. I was the person who was always afraid to increase pricing. I was afraid people would leave. I was not even leave. I was afraid people would get mad. I was afraid of the confrontation that I would have. I learned a really, really, really big lesson around this whenever so part of my story I left out is that I moved in 2020 to 7 hours away from my business and ran it for a complete year virtually from 7 hours away. I would make, monthly trips up or, bi-monthly trips up. But what I learned during that season is that I had cut down my schedule. Like, leading up to COVID, I had started cutting my schedule down to like one Saturday a month. Like, it was like, I was like working like a couple days a month. Literally, I had cut down my schedule so much. I was almost done behind the chair. And so I was literally only working, a few days a month behind the chair. And I had doubled my pricing. Like, when I decided that, okay, this is it, like, I'm really cutting down like a lot now because I need to, I had like doubled my pricing behind the chair. And you know what? Like, there are definitely some people that dropped off to other girls in the salon, which I was so happy about. But I had clients who like gladly paid it. I was like, what? Like, why did I do this like so long ago? Like, there was no confrontation. There was no and I'm not saying it's always going to go that smooth, but like, when you're giving value and you are giving a great experience and you're talented at what you do and you work on your craft and you give great service and great value, people don't mind paying. And so I just had this huge epiphany. I'm like, holy shit, like, I've been running my whole business the wrong way. Like, I should have absolutely been doing this along the way. Because I wasn't charging what I should have been charging, like, I would look at my day and be like, I did so many clients. I was so busy. How did I only make this much money? And then I would get resentful. But I was afraid to raise my prices. I wasn't doing what I needed to do in order to feel really good, that energetic exchange of money and service. Like, I felt like I wasn't being compensated. for everything that I was doing. And then I was booked out forever. So, I didn't raise my prices on a regular basis. And that's something that I would absolutely do differently. One, just from a financial standpoint, but two, for that energetic exchange. When you feel really good about the money you're receiving in exchange for the value that you're giving, like, it feels good. And your client feels good for paying you. You feel good for giving the service. It doesn't work out well whenever someone's paying you and you feel like you over delivered and you are not being compensated for what you did. So I would have increased my prices more regularly. Again, self-inflicted. The resentment that I was feeling was a result of me not taking the action that I know that I needed to take. Number 5, this one's touchy, is I would have let go of team members that weren't a good fit more quickly. So I gave everybody the benefit of the doubt, even when I knew that they were doing things that were not part of our culture. I would excuse it. I would let things slide under the rug. I'd be like, it's not a big deal. I would fall in love with the potential of people. How many of you have heard, like, don't fall in love with the potential? Like, don't marry somebody that has lots of potential. Like, you don't want to do that, right? It's the same with team members. Like, don't fall in love with somebody's potential. Like, oh, she has so much potential. He has so much potential to be good. Well, it doesn't matter if they don't show up acting as if they have that potential and stepping forward into their potential, then it's a no-go. And that's something I held on to team members that were not a good fit for way, way too long. And it's so bad for so many reasons. One, incredibly stressful, self-inflicted stress. Again, like, every single day I'm going to have to deal with somebody walking in their pajamas to work, and then I have to have an uncomfortable conversation with them about what they're wearing. Like, no. How about just I let you go and you go work somewhere else, because I don't want to deal with that. Like, again, I'm in a place in my life now where I would just say that, like, I would just be done with it. But in my 20s, like, no one teaches you this stuff. No one teaches you how to let go of an employee. No one teaches you how to handle conflict. And no one teaches you how to lead a team. And so I was learning on the go. I was learning on the fly. And I give myself so much grace and love. Like, I look back at my younger self and just think, wow, like, you were doing the best you could with what you knew how to do. And so, keeping on people on your team that aren't a good fit, one, is most importantly, is so incredibly stressful for you, because you continually have to deal with BS, and that just causes stress. Like, it takes your attention and flow from things that are really important, like serving your guests, taking care of your guests, creating a great experience, being visionary in your business, like, keeping your business in this forward momentum. It's like you're constantly stuck on this, like, petty little thing that is just not serving you. So if somebody's not a good fit for your team, let them go early. Like, establish the standards, establish the boundaries, establish the expectations. And if they are continually, like, not following through, it's like 3 strikes you're out kind of thing, because it affects you. Honestly, the people that are dealing with you, always having these conversations with them, they're not happy in your business anyways, most of the time. And thirdly, it affects everything else. Like, your clients feel that, your team members feel that. So absolutely, that's something I would have done differently. That was a lot of self-inflicted stress that I could have, like, eliminated a lot sooner. And number 6, that kind of goes, like, hand in hand, is I would not let, like, now at this point, I would not let fear stop me from having necessary conversations. There were so many times, like, I hate conflict so much, and I hate, like, confrontation. And so I would avoid conversations that were necessary to have. And I'm sorry, but, like, your gut tells you what you should be saying and doing. And when you go against what your gut tells you, it's just like bad energy. It's bad. Honestly, it's bad for your health. For me, it manifested in my health and my well-being, like, because I was holding so much tension, and I was holding so much, like, resentment, even at times, like, I would, and anger and shame for myself for not being able to have these conversations with people, and knowing that I should have, like, I would beat myself up as a leader over it. And so what I know now is just having those conversations, saying yes, saying no, holding people to their greatness. Like, that is part of your job as a salon owner and a leader. So that's just something that I would say is something that I would do differently, is I would not let fear stop me from having this conversation. So what I had implemented, I started getting so much better at this, like towards my last few years of being a salon owner, is like within 24 hours have that conversation. So I would start holding myself to that, and it started getting better. Like, it's not ever fun. Like, I still don't love having those conversations with people, but now I just know that it's necessary, and I know what not having them does to my health and to my well-being. And so now I'm just not willing to do that, not willing to compromise on having conversations that I know I need to have. So that's number 6. And number 7, I would have said no more often. So I say this with like a grain of salt, because at the beginning of this, I said, you have to say yes to a lot of things whenever you're starting out. So I see all of these things that if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. And honestly, like when you're building your business, there's a lot of hell no's that you got to do. Like, it's just challenging building a clientele, building a financial basis foundation for you to feel really comfortable in like your financial life, and building a team, building a salon. Like, it is hard, and there are definitely things that you have to say yes to. But what I'm just saying is that all of those areas that I talked about, those are areas where I would have said no more often. Like, if a client wanted me to squeeze them in, it's a no. Like, it's no, I can't do that, because it compromises your experience. It compromises, my well-being. Like, I just can't do that. Compromise other clients' experience as well. So I would have just said no more often to clients. I would have said no more often to team members. Like, I would say yes to everything. Like, if I had 5 people that wanted to take a vacation at the same time, I would know that I shouldn't say yes to everybody. I would say, hey, is there any way that you can adjust your vacation? Are you flexible with but no, I would have an entire team out like for a whole week in the salon. And so I said yes to everything. And the reason I was doing it is because I was operating from a place of fear. If I said no, they're going to get mad at me. If I say no, they're going to leave. If I say no, they're going to talk shit on me. Like, and it was just like it wasn't an empowering place that I was saying yes from. It was a place of fear and anxiousness and anxiety. Like, that's where I was saying yes from. It was never an empowered yes. It was always like a yes, because if I don't say yes, this will happen. And so now I'm just like, no, I would have said no. And the people who wanted to leave could have left, and the people that wanted to stay, whether that was a client, a team member, then they stay. But I was saying yes at the expense of myself. And all of these things contributed to like my burnout behind the chair and as a salon owner. These are like, I feel like if I would have just had the guidance and somebody would have shared these things with me and coached me and guided me through like how that looks and how it can sound and how it can happen, and I would have taken the action to do so, things could have been differently. Again, I don't live in regret. I love where I'm at right now. And I think things absolutely, I have a testimony of just how God worked in my life to be able at this exact moment to be where I'm at. So I love it. But for anybody who is in the place of salon ownership right now, or building your business behind the chair and a hairstylist, like, these are things that I will absolutely tell you. These are probably some of my biggest takeaways that I would like share and pour it back into our industry now, because I know that it's so important. So the theme really is like, as I look at all these things and I was like done kind of going through this, like, the main thing I would have done differently is stop operating from a place of fear. Like, everything, all the decisions that I was making was from a place of fear. I was a people pleaser. I was afraid to say no. I let things slide. I didn't do the things that I knew were necessary because I was fearful that people would get mad at me. Like, we talked about that, or that I would hurt somebody. And worst of all, I found my significance. In how I was being praised for being someone's favorite stylist or like the best boss, but it was all at the expense of like my sanity, my health, my well-being. All of them are amazing compliments, and I don't take them lightly. But my fear was, if I wasn't those things, like, I found my identity and my significance in like the praise that people gave me for being a salon owner, for being their favorite stylist, for being like, no one's able to cut my hair like this. And I found so much like it made me feel so good. And I found significance in that. And that's something that is a whole nother topic. But ultimately, I was like operating from a place of fear. So I can't do like X, Y, or Z. I can't say no, or else people won't like me. I can't not fit them in, because then they're not going to want to come back to me. So it's like, I can't do X, Y, or Z because people won't like me. And then I was operating from ego. Like, as long as I do X, Y, Z, people will like me and love me. As long as I fit people in, like, they're telling me how amazing I am. And it's, makes me feel good, like whatever. So it was like this complete place of fear and ego. And that, you guys, is what caused my burnout. Like, that is what caused my burnout. So I think if you see a resemblance in yourself in any of these scenarios, it's just a place to notice it. So notice where you are doing that. And so let's talk about these things. I have a few things and I have to hop on a call here. So the first thing I would say is just take notice of where you're feeling burnout. Okay. Take notice of where you're feeling burnout and ask yourself, what's making me feel burnout right now? Like, what's making me feel resentful right now? And then ask yourself why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I squeezing people in? Like, what is the reason behind it? Once you hit that, I'm doing it because I'm afraid that they're not going to like me. I'm afraid they're going to leave. I'm afraid they're going to talk shit on me. Like, if I say this, or if I do this, or if I say no, whatever. And then ask yourself, what would I do differently? I like to rephrase this. What's the most empowered version of myself do in this situation? And ask yourself, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be in order to do that? So if I have to tell a client no, I'm going to have to be courageous. I'm going to have to be confident. I'm going to have to be bold. I'm going to have to be one of those people that just doesn't care like what people think. And so that is just something. The second thing I will say is practice. Practice makes perfect, just like learning how to do balayage or doing a haircut or putting extensions in. You have to practice these skills. It's not going to happen overnight. So take small actions to build your no muscle. So if you're saying yes to every client, every team member, like, build your muscle. Say no to like the very small things first, and then work yourself into saying no to bigger things. Hold yourself accountable by having that 24 hours. So if you have tough conversations, give yourself 24 hours, and do not let that 24th hour pass without having a conversation that you know is necessary. Number 3 is to take care of yourself. So actually know what you need to fill your cup. That's different for everybody. It might be a bubble bath. It might be talking to a therapist. It might be like having an overnight trip by yourself somewhere. Like, I don't know what you do. Take a walk in nature. Know what you need to refill your cup up and to balance yourself back out. I think that that's so important. And this, I know for me, when someone first coached me to do this, I was like, oh no, I can't do that. And that's take time for yourself every single week, to have like blank time, whether you block off like a whole day for yourself. That's what I would encourage you to do. A half day for yourself, whatever it is. Like, I remember someone saying that. I'm like, I cannot do that every single week. Like, maybe once a month I could take a day for myself. Now I look back at myself, I'm like, oh, Kristen, like, you poor thing. Like, that is so silly. Like, you can absolutely take a day for yourself every week. And I did, and I started to, and now I'm like, I am a guardian of my me time. I know I need it. I know it's how I show up best. And so just know how you need to take care of yourself and schedule that every single week. And number 4 is absolutely work a sustainable schedule. And so I would just say, look at your current schedule, make a list of all the responsibilities you're doing, and then fill in the times that you're not behind the chair and what you will do like with that time, like plug in your other responsibilities. So if you don't have a schedule for like paying your bills or doing payroll, like, you should be doing that the same day and time, like every 2 weeks. So put it on your schedule. And then does this schedule, once you do that, does that schedule look sustainable? Is it something that you can continually do for at least the next year or 2? If it's not, like, you need to tweak and adjust. Maybe that means you taking a little bit more time out from behind the chair. Maybe it looks like you being more efficient with your time, really evaluating how you're spending it. And then, if not, create that ideal schedule and create a plan to get there. So my whole point in doing this podcast episode is just to let you know that you can absolutely bounce back from burnout. If you are in the place of burnout, you can absolutely bounce back from it. We as humans are incredibly resilient. And so if you've allowed yourself to get to this place, no shame in your game. Like I can talk about this like with a smile on my face now because I've grown so much and I know like I absolutely can speak to this and tell you exactly what I would do differently. So give yourself just grace for where you're at right now, and you can absolutely bounce back from your burnout. And it's amazing. Like you guys, like it's amazing, even if you're just that person who's not taking a day off, like, or taking time for yourself each week, just that alone can rejuvenate you and can like be the thing that is like reignite you to be able to do all the things that you do throughout the week. But what I'll say is that your light and your brilliance, like your light and your brilliance cannot shine through burnout. And like your light and brilliance is absolutely needed for all of your clients, for all the people that you come in contact every day, for your business. And so make sure that you protect that with all of your power. Protect your light and brilliance so that you can show up passionately in everything that you do. I love you guys. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you next time.